And we're live. Welcome to Earful of Dirt, the Major League Rugby podcast. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Aaron Castro, back in Arizona after way too much time in Houston, Texas. I'm joined this week by Victor Perez, who was also in Houston,
back.
Texas for a little bit, but not for the period I was there.
I know, sucks.
And then Liam Poach Madigan will also be here. He's right there. He's in Boston now, so he feels rejuvenated. Although apparently you should not tag Mama Cole in anything New England Patriots related.
No, she is very adverse to having any sort of Tom Brady influence in her life.
We'll get eaten. But meanwhile, Corey hanging out in Iowa, just swatting the Skeeters. Maybe we should have a test in Cedar Rapids. Maybe we should do that.
Our local rugby club's goalposts are actually held together with duct tape. It's pretty fantastic.
Go to any D3 club, man. Come on.
That reminds me of the Fullerton regular club field. But so he's in Iowa. Hit him up on Twitter, in the control room, questions, comments, or even concerns. If you have concerns, we'll huddle, and we'll probably tell you to rub some dirt on it. So, how's everyone's week been?
Been awesome. I wonder why.
Yeah, how could it not be amazing? How could this not be the best weekend of our lives?
Yeah, something about this weekend just set me off on the right note for this Monday.
Yeah. I don't know
what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron, did you do anything fun this weekend?
Oh, me.
Yeah, you.
I drank way too much alcohol. So I hope everyone, if you haven't caught the article on earfulofdirt.com, my recap of the match is up. I made sure to get the copy out before I got on a plane back to Phoenix here yesterday. I did spend some time talking to the team on Sunday because we were in the airport at the same time. So, talked to Aj. It's Aj, not AJ. Talked to, some of the coaches. It was Randy DePaula, CK. It was his birthday today. So just he got
cumpleaños.
He got some gourmet feeding from his captain. He got hooked up. But yeah, I was in Houston, got in Thursday midday, and then did the rounds on Thursday night downtown drinking. Ran into Tony Ridnell, friend of the show. I was with Grant Cole, also the rugby evangelist, friend of the show. Great man. Took me out. We had a great time. Also met with the Cactus. He's Eagle 325, Paul Emmerich. Great dude. Great guy. I got to talk to him a lot about different things. He's coaching now at the Air Force Academy, and he was telling me about this tour that he took his Air Force kids on to the UK. So they played the Royal Air Force and I think the Royal Air Force Academy guys on tour, so that they must have had a fun time. And then Friday was the big day of fundraisers, as it were. I went to Lost Afternoon, where Gavin Hastings of Scotland was the keynote speaker. That was a great time listening to him, but I got to sit with some really cool people. Tony Ridnell, Eagle 168, Paul Emmerich, the Cactus again, Darren Morris, Welsh national team player, British and Irish Lion, Alex Corbizero, another British and Irish Lion, but an England national team player, Phaedra Knight, the grandest person on our table, of course, Eagle 99, World Rugby Hall of Famer, World Rugby Player of the Decade from 2000 to 2010. So she got to sit next to her and talk to her. She's pretty awesome. She's grinding. She's sitting in the women's international athlete chair on what is left of the USA Rugby board. So she's working really tough. And then the Lizard, Steve Lewis, was at our table. The Rugby Evangelist, of course, Ross Young, the interim CEO, and some friends, Russ Newth, and a new friend, Ed Russell. Pretty cool dude. I liked him. But yeah, got to talk to all sorts of people. Got to meet Wayne Barnes, the greatest ref in the world right now, who officiated the match. It was just a great time, and we were all there partially to listen to Gavin Hastings while enjoying some adult beverages, but mostly to raise money for the Houston Youth Rugby Association. And then on Saturday, Friday I left my arm out of my sling a bit too long. Dumb idea, because I was then in a sling all of Saturday and all of yesterday.
Just like a rugby player trying to play through an injury.
Yeah. Being an idiot.
Saturday, just some tape on it, man.
Tape on it, yeah. Yeah, I was like, and then Gary Gold, because we had spoken the day before, he's like, "What happened to you?" I was like, "It was already broken. Don't worry about it." But watch the U20s put a number on Canada after getting a number put on them. They won wire to wire 40-22 in what was really a pretty dominating match at Rice University. And the Rugby Evangelist himself was on the PA for that, and he called a pretty good game. He apologized to the Canadians for getting some of the names wrong. I don't think he did bad. I mean, I think he did fine. So, but he felt he didn't do well enough, which says a lot about that man's standards. And then, of course, 30-29, baby. But, for those new to the podcast, that was, my long-ass story. I think just so we can get out of here, I think everyone else's weekend revolved around watching that game, so we'll move on. For those new to the podcast, each week on Monday night, we discuss news and rumors from Major League Rugby, the United States Professional Rugby Union competition. It's a chance to discuss the issues, hear from the league, team leadership, and check in with our friends from across the U.S. rugby scene. And we've got a review. I'm remiss. I meant to get this in the last episode, but it is in now from Nutmegger Jones. Must listen to MLR Pod for the American Ruggers. As a collegiate D1 rugby player, it's awesome to hear an American Rugby Pod with people from all over the country giving their insight on Major League Rugby, from rumors to news and everything in between. Keep up the great work. Dylan Faraki. I think we might have something for you, Dylan. So shoot us a note at earfulofdirt@gmail.com. If we don't, I will send you an apology. But I'm pretty sure we will have a hat out for you sometime in the next couple of weeks. It took me a month to mail the last one out. But, Corey, let's get into it.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure you're correct about that hat, Aaron. I think it's sitting here on my table. So we got it ready for you. Just shoot us an email, Dylan. All right. Boy, do we have stuff to talk about. There was a game down in Houston this weekend, and it wasn't the SaberCats. So we'll talk quite a bit about USA Scotland. We had NOLA over at Utah, and that was a nail-biter. We had Seattle visiting Glendale. That was not a nail-biter, and nor was Austin's trip to San Diego. So we'll hit on that stuff. We'll, of course, do questions from Bob. We'll talk about a tweet of the week that was pretty special following the USA-Scotland match. And, got a whole bunch of fun stuff coming up. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to jump back and be on the comment section. So I'll catch up with you guys a little bit later on, okay?
Bye, Corey!
Bye! So NOLA wins up high at altitude 46-43 in what I call defense. Where was the defense?
Defense!
Where was the defense?
It's definitely not in that game. Dang it, guys. That game was super freaking fun. That is 89 points scored between the two teams. 89. Dang it, that was nice. Not too shabby.
Yeah, no, definitely. And one guy we definitely need to highlight in terms of all that scoring getting done was Don Patty. Don Patty, who honestly, I made this this note in the show's rundown that if he were playing for either Glendale or Seattle right now, he'd be a pretty shoo-in or at least on the track for an MVP nomination. But unfortunately, he's kind of stuck on Utah, who's teeter-tottering out of the playoffs and.
Well, here's the thing with Don, personally. I think he's, he was focused on sevens early on in the season. He was called into high performance camp. And I think that really affected how, he played and how he got selected, because he did miss some. He wasn't selected for some games. And, some of the games he played, he didn't play well. I think it was all focus because that he was on sevens. But, man, he scored 2 tries like that, slicing through the – NOLA defense. I thought this was going to be, I thought they were going to burn the barn down and it was going to be over real quick. But I guess the NOLA defense just did enough. This match was kind of nuts for me overall. You're seeing certain guys throughout the league continue to raise their hands to rejoin the Eagles. Specifically, the guy I looked at when I was watching this game that just was playing at a different level. It's not on the stat sheet completely, but John Cullen, his work around the breakdown when he carried the ball when he was on defense, challenging rucks, his form right now is just something else. He brings something extra. He does the small things right. So there was a tackle that was almost perfect. He gained 3 extra meters and then twisted his body and presented the ball for Joe Nichols perfectly.
Yeah, Cullen definitely did come through pretty well in that game. However, if I remember correctly, I think he had one of Utah's many ill-timed penalties at one point in the second half, which kind of made me just kind of, facepalm right then and there. But that's something that I think, needs to be addressed too, is the fact that, Utah has all these players from Cullen to Patty to, Lasike obviously was off doing Eagle duty and stuff like that. But they have all these players, but week in and week out, they get all their hard work gets nullified by the fact that they can't keep together in terms of discipline. They're making all these penalties like knock-ons. They're their discipline in the breakdowns, particularly, I was not impressed with. And again, they're this team that just relies on these big splash plays from their really, athletic wings, getting these huge ass breaks when they can't really. I don't think I've seen them play a really cohesive game, yet this MLR season.
I gotta say that if we go back a few games, especially if we go back a few games, I've seen them play cohesive. I've seen them play well, and those led to.
But for an entire game is
well, there was 2. Where you saw systems being played. One of those was a loss. I could peg you which one, but you saw their systems and their attack in place. Whereas this was a bit of get the ball to your athlete and just let them run ragged for the most.
Flash in the pan rugby,
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was some for the most part, just this game in general wasn't really. There wasn't great attacks on both sides. Utah's was non-existent again, so we're sort of back to, the beginning of, the season where you just give it to your heavy ball carriers like AJ Tuiniao, Tanata Lauti, and Fetu Vainicolo, who can just, they can cut at the right moment and gash a team's defense, and Nola paid for that, but. It sort of didn't matter because there was nothing opposing New Orleans. So you had, JP Eloff was named MLR Player of the Week, and he just crushed it. He put up 23 points by himself. He had a try for himself, and he just cut up through that defensive line just pretty much basically the same way Don Patty did. He scored a try and then scored a bunch of conversions and then scored a bunch of penalties because, you talked about an ill-gotten penalty in the second half by John Cullen. Well, JP Eloff was on Saturday. He was on. There was nothing stopping him at the fly half position. He just, when he carried the ball, he cut through the gap. He gave it to a support runner or, he just put it through. And that wasn't really a turning point because it was really early in the game, but something that was very effectual towards the end of the match was that drop goal in the first half when they ended up.
I love drop goals.
And yeah, if you can it was right distance. It looked nice too. So it wasn't, just, man, I hope it goes through.
By the way, that's the fourth drop goal so far in Major League Rugby history. Just the season 4.
I know Sam Windsor got the first one. I'm pretty sure Sam Windsor.
Colina got the first one.
Yeah, all right. Yeah,
Sam Windsor has one. Colina has one.
And Sam has the second. And then JP has the third. And then the one that happened at the Raptors
Seattle.
the Raptor Seawolves game.
Yeah.
And I think Maximo did that one. Maximo that show.
Yeah.
But before we get too off the track, in terms of speaking about JP Eloff, I think it's worth noting that earlier you said, Aaron, that neither one of these teams really had a really effective attack. But I think what's been underrated all season is just the balanced, the balanced aspects of NOLA's attack, from the fact that they have pretty proficient forwards who are able to draw the other team into the middle of the field. That opens it up for people on the outside, especially people like Houston, people like even Howden when they move him out to fly half. I think they move pretty effectively all over the field, but they're just not a very flashy rugby team like Utah with people like Potty.
When I look at NOLA, this is probably the offensively, with the way they've run their attack, this was probably the most disorganized they looked. And I think it was just more of a result based on the defense that was in front of them, because they just once they came back down and they were ready to play and they tightened up just enough to stop Utah from going, the gaps were just there, which allowed them to just run through. And JP Eloff had a great game, but he wasn't the only one. Like Matt Houston, for the most part, if I talked to a bunch of people, he had another great game. And, this time, instead of stopping it from being, a 60-pointer, he does enough to where he's able to, achieve the victory for his side. As a number 8, it just hasn't been there. And I think this says a lot about the growth that he's had playing for New Orleans in this kind of environment, that he was able to just slot in and, do what he does at 7, but be a number 8. And which says a lot about, for me, it says so much about his development. But on the flip side, I think, David Tamilau, I would put in the engine room and flip Saya Uhila out to number 8 for the Warriors, just the way they're playing.
I would rather keep Tamilau at 8, just because I think he's a lot more effective with the ball in his hand than Osila is, and especially he's had some really good grabs out of that scrum. I'm not very enthused about Nichols as a scrum half. I don't really, I feel like he's more Blake Bortles-esque when it comes to his position in the MLR. So, which is why I think somebody like Tamilau getting that ball out of the 8-man position might be I think it's worked for that. Yeah, I think it's worked for them. But no, he's effective in terms of moving the ball and getting like a higher meters gained per touch, if you know what I mean.
Well, what we've seen is I think Nichols is fine, but Nichols is an old man. He's 32, right? And you don't know that he's old until the camera goes to his face. And he looks young out there, and he's been very efficient.
He does.
I think they wanted Patty to be like his backup. But just the way things were working, because Patty previously has been a scrum half and a very highly effective one, but it just didn't work when he was put out at scrum half, and the tempo was just off, and it was just really bad. That was early, in the preseason and early in the season. So Nichols earning the start for me was what was required. But I think I would flip Uhila back out because of the way Tamilau was playing. I think their engine room needed some push, and I think Tamilau is big enough and strong enough that he would have given that extra opposite Matt Jensen. But it was pretty much a question of who would make the kicks and Nola made the kicks because there was just no defense. So commit the least penalties and make your kicks.
Essentially, yeah. Never underestimate that kicking game. There's been a lot of games that could have gone a whole different direction if the coaches had decided just to take the points in the beginning of the game, especially.
Yeah. So moving on, Raptors crush the Seawolves while the Eagles are away. For the most part, I thought this was like the best 30 minutes in the MLR during this match, and that was the first 30 minutes. And someone will say, hey, wasn't Seattle ahead for most of those 30 minutes? But yeah, they were. And then, things just started to unravel. Late in the first half, I think Luke White came on for Blake Rogers, and their platform just shifted. It got a lot better. And we just talked about the kicking game. The kicking game for Seattle is a problem right now. With Stoller being away with Canada, Holder I think he's been less than 50-50. Physically, as a ball distributor, Will is fine. But he did not have a good day from the tee. And then Peter Smith just did not come on early enough to gain a rhythm, and probably should have started because the Raptors defense then didn't commit a lot of penalties. They formed their own seawall.
I like that idea. So I just gotta say, I think you definitely have a point there when you're talking about how he didn't have a good day from the tee, especially when you're in Colorado when the atmosphere is really thin. There's not going to be a whole lot of resistance, especially going from some of the distances that he did. But in terms of their discipline, if you've ever met Dave Williams in person, I'm not very surprised that the Raptors have been, other than the indiscretions in the beginning of the season.
Dave is pretty intense. That's all I gotta say. He's pretty intense.
I mean, like, it was my first introduction to meeting a professional rugby coach. I was standing like 5 feet behind him, like my first ever professional game watching, and it was. I couldn't stop laughing for about 10 minutes after it.
He's kind of a guy, I think, that if he didn't play scrum half, if he was a winger, he could still play, because he's like, it's kind of funny to hear him talk about his own career.
Funny to hear him talk in general.
Yeah, it's like, but he talks about like how he played. Like he's like, I really wasn't that good. He's like, I was good enough, but the reason I didn't stick around is I really wasn't that good.
Isn't that a Dave Williams thing to say? I was really good, but I wasn't good enough. All right, I did a lot of good things, but I didn't do enough good things. Yeah.
It's pretty. That's pretty good. Except you were Australian and not English.
All right, yes. All right, so he's like, hey, we're beating this team like 1,000,000 but we still can do a whole lot more good things, yeah?
That's a little better.
There we go. But,
hear about Peter Vonenberg. We'll move on.
But this game starts, it's like a tale of, 30 versus 50 minutes, right? Phil Mack, he's coming on. He played decent. He played pretty well early. But it was a one-man show. Like he did as much as he could, and nothing was going right for them at all.
It was a very stagnant game, and you still saw like the flashes of athleticism that all of these guys possess, but there just wasn't any. I guess you could say they never really got that lawnmower started and up and running for a very long time. It just kind of kept on sputtering. And as you said, there was no seawall for Seattle in this game because as usual, Glendale in the second half especially just kind of had their way with them because as they've been doing all season, Glendale with the ball in hand in terms of passing on the back line is second to none in anybody in this league.
But I guess I've talked down enough about the seawall. Let's talk a little bit about Raptors Unstoppable.
Yeah, dang it! It's beautiful choice, by the way.
They just kept it. They just kept their heads in the game. There really wasn't any panic. Maximo just sees the gap, and what does he do? He kicks the grubber down, and what is there? Oh. there's not Harley Davidson, but there's Chad London in like the same position, grabs the ball, touches it down for the try, and you know what? It's 5-11. Like, whoa, right?
Boom, like that.
And then it just starts rolling. You know, that in the first half, they score a little bit more. But it's still close, and you're thinking, go to the sheds, whatever. And then pretty much it was all Raptors the entire second half. I was very surprised that the score wasn't worse.
I mean, yes and no. I'm definitely a little surprised that Seattle didn't score more, but at the same time, when you watched that game towards the end of the first half, you knew how this game was going to go, and you knew Seattle wasn't working, like together as a unit the way that they had in the past. So I'm both not and am surprised at the results in a way.
By the way, guys, let's talk about that Casey Rock try, because that thing was a thing of beauty.
Oh, Casey Rock, he's a rock solid man. I guess
goodness, that try was
a rock solid man. That dude is fucking. That dude's massive.
Dang it! I mean, he finished great. Obviously, I mean, he got tackled, got back up, and finished the try. But dang it, just between Harley Davidson then getting caught, and then him popping it up to Rock, and then scoring. Oh my god! And everything happened before that. Gorgeous.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that whole phase, there was a ton of people involved in that, in terms of getting him the opportunity to get that ball. Like you said, Harley Davidson had a really good run. I think what was it, Chad London, who I think kind of broke open, or no, it was Mika Kruse who got a huge run to kind of gain them the meters going up there. And Mika Kruse had a really underrated game as well. But at this point,
underrated. Are you sure it was underrated? Because
I mean,
I put him on the first 15. Put it that way. Cruz.
I guess the fact that we haven't mentioned him yet makes it underrated. The fact that the first thing we didn't say was Cruz makes him underrated.
So I got a problem with this. Not his performance, but the fact that he wasn't even like on the player pool for selection camp.
He's young. No, you can tell his game is very raw.
No, I'm not talking about for the Eagles. I'm talking for the Junior All-Americans, because he's only 19. He's only 19. So Devin Short was on that list, and Devin Short, when he was down at the Junior All-Americans, he had 2 really good games overall. There's some things that he's just going to have to learn, but 2 really good games. Nevertheless, he crushed it. But why? I get it to an extent, but Short started all but 1 game. So you're taking a guy that you've slotted in and around, between 11, 12, and 13, pretty much every game. If you're able to do this against the Seawolves, he could have been released for the U20. So I wonder why he either didn't get called up or chose not to go. But I think if he was slighted, that was a bad choice by High Performance.
Whether he got slighted or not, though, I think it's only a good thing that he's getting more minutes in a professional setting, especially. So they said during the broadcast that he was 21 years old, but I've been hearing people say that they said that he was 21. I was like, I thought he was 19.
Yeah. I know what Liam's talking about, because when they put his name up and like after he scored it said age 21. It didn't say 19. So that's what caught me off guard too. So wait a minute, because I just heard the commentator saying that he's 19 and the graphic says 21. So I'm like, what?
So it's 2018. In February of 2015, he was 16.
So simple math.
Simple math.
Yeah, of course. So that was wrong.
So simple math, he's no older than 20.
Of course. Yeah. Well, whatever.
Just, fact checking people. But, in that game, they also said what Scott Green was the center ref, and it was Adam Leal. So,
So I noticed we did get a question presented to us via the broadcast. It's Seattle has lost to Glendale twice. Do they have any chance if they meet in the championship?
We play to win the game.
You play, don't.
Well, so Seattle was healthy the first time. They had them at home. They played pretty close. It was a tight game. It was one of the best games of the season, and this wasn't. Yes, Phil was back, but they're not exactly healthy. They don't have their first choice front row out there. Yes, they've got their first choice tight head, but they don't have the first choice back row with. I mean, Shermer probably plays 7 in ahead of Penny if my wonderful Reichert Hadding was healthy right now. So, and then you also don't have your best kicker in Brock Stoller, who is, well, he was on Canada duty for like the worst game possible. But yeah, so they don't have key pieces, but that makes you wonder, right? What would happen if Glendale had their key pieces? Because they're only missing like 3 or 4 on Seattle's side, and then they're also missing 3 or 4. So some of their parts, I don't know.
But we've now seen like the last 2 weeks with Glendale missing parts, and they're perfectly fine.
Perfectly fine.
Not perfectly, but
I'm just saying with their missing parts, they're freaking good.
Yeah,
like they were. Like, there's no question. Like, I beat up Glendale throughout the season about depth and how they practiced. Well, I was freaking wrong because the moment all the guys are gone, they just take the hammer and they brutishly crush people.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, that really comes down to the coaching. Like we said, Dave Williams is a really intense guy, and I think he really preaches that follow through in terms of everything that's on the field. While we talked about Casey Rock's try. We talked about how how he's able to get back up from tackles and keep going because he has such a really good motor. These are the kind of things that the Raptors are known for, is just smothering their opponents with their pace and like their nonstop, kind of flawless execution. So it comes to a point where, is there anybody in the United States who can even match their pace of play on the field? Because if not, then nobody's going to beat them in a game unless you're the Ontario Blues.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting because they play SD this week, and what is?
I want San Diego to get that win so bad.
I don't see it happening. I just don't like the way. And even if it does match, and even if they do, I don't see San Diego being able to match up well with them the way they're playing when the Eagles come back.
Although you have to admit that having Ryan Matias on that squad, they were totally assuming that they were going to be without him through this whole test window. I think that's definitely going to fare well for their team going into that matchup.
Think, Matias back is very helpful, but we'll talk about that very soon. Moving on, the final match of the weekend, which was yesterday, San Diego, they're hanging out at home. I think there was close to 4,000 people. You saw the cohort out. One of the armored guys from that fan support group ran out, led the team out, running up and down the sideline with like an SD Legion flag. So that was kind of cool. They were pretty loud. Except, when there was some kicking, I heard like conversations, but it wasn't like, silent, and it wasn't. There wasn't any hollering. I'm all about that. I'm all about hollering, as you know. But for the most part, man. So people have beaten some refs up. So I'm going to beat Paul Corbier up here. So he made some interesting calls, which I would have been like, okay. But I'm not worried about the interesting calls. I'm worried about, so you could say the interesting calls led to the back chat. I'm worried about how some of the refs in MLR that have taken the center judge spot, specifically Corbier, and a little bit of Derek Summers and a little bit of Josh Houston, they'll make some calls. And then like a lot of players. So on Sunday, a lot of players back chatted to Corbier, and he didn't stop it. Like he needed to send a message, and he did not send a message, which makes me wonder, hey, hold on to the cards because playoffs are coming up soon. I don't think that happened, but there were two things that annoy the shit out of me. Players starting a penalty before they're told to start the penalty. And that the worst that happened was in that match. Like you just saw, whether it was Austin or San Diego, they just said the penalty, and Leader or Guillemon or someone else would kick quick tap before he put the mark down. And it happened 15 times.
Which only just leads to further stops in play, and you're just fucking calm down.
Yeah. So that's my thing. About that, the officiating in that game is just don't let yourself be disrespected. Be confident in your calls, and then if players are being idiots, then talk to the captain, enforce the penalty, and give the penalty, give advantage to somebody else if someone's messing around. You're able to do that, right? If you give a penalty to somebody and all of a sudden there's a swear word, you're able to give the penalty to the other team. So we've seen that plenty of times. But man, Austin so they won the battle up front. They won the scrum battle, which I've seen them do against San Diego before in the preseason.
And also with their victory at Round Rock as well, where they kind of just won every fucking facet of that game.
They won everything in that game.
Yeah.
But they committed too many penalties. They couldn't hold on to the ball, and their defense just had too many gaps. Credit to them in the second half for, winning that battle, for, making it tough on Pat Blair. Ben Mitchell made Pat Blair have to work for it on line-out throws. But, man, this was just such a hard match to watch because of how Austin played on defense. And then the only reason that the San Diego gets credit here, I mean, it's really hard to give them credit. There were so many forward passes. There were so many ball drops by Austin. It was a really tough match to watch because they just made so many mistakes after playing 3 really complete matches in a row. Even though they were playing Seattle, they still hung tough at home. And then, it goes back into what I've talked about all season, that Austin is a yo-yo. They bounce up and down, and they bounce deep down.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think something can also be said for I really like Nick Boyer at scrum half for the San Diego Legion. I think I think that was part of the problem for Austin. It was that Boyer had the San Diego Legion working at a particular pace, and Austin just wasn't able to realign themselves, and like you said, that led to gaps on defense. And Austin, once the score started to go up, Austin kind of got ahead of themselves in terms of trying to do too much, especially when they were trying to pass out wide. That I think kind of led to a lot of the mental mistakes and a lot of the drops that kind of stopped their own momentum that they were trying to gain, because Austin definitely had some really good phases of play at intermittent points of the match. They just couldn't be sustained because, like I said, they were getting ahead of themselves and trying to do too much at once to try to make sure they got ahead of San Diego early, where I think the experience of a lot of players on San Diego, like Leader, like Boyer, like Matias, they were able to play the game at a speed that they felt comfortable, and I don't think Austin was able to match that at a level that was acceptable.
I mean, I wonder, though, because we've seen Austin play fast, and one of the things that Austin has been good at, especially in their victories, is their support running and quick offload game. And we've seen them they will just do 3 offloads in a row, hit the gap, and score a try, And that happened, I think, once. One of the best ones of play that I liked was Peter Naruma's try. But that was the highlight of the game. Guillemon was horrible from the tee yesterday when he has been just an assassin. He's you know, his nickname is the Bullet because the ball goes everywhere he wants it to go. It did not go everywhere. It didn't go anywhere he wanted it to go on Sunday. And I think maybe
he wasn't the only one that happened to, and we'll discuss that later.
Wait a minute. I thought Game's nickname was the Iceman. What happened to that one?
Who called him?
I've heard people calling him the Iceman.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard the Iceman too, but this is rugby. Everybody has a million freaking nicknames. Like, yeah, I mean, Victor, I know you've never played, but like, I mean, Aaron, come on, how many nicknames have you had in your career? If you really think about it.
I only had one.
Well, luckily I've had too many. Most of the time in rugby, I'm called Fidel, which is really strange.
Oh, yo!
Holy crap! I can see that.
Yeah, but it's as it's settled down now. It is AC or Stro, and that's how it is. But
thank God.
I mean, I've heard Iceman. I just didn't like that. The Bullet. Remember, the guys have to be cool with what they're called too, and I know he's cool with the Bullet. But it was just, you know, I like Austin. I want to see them do well. Like, I know those people. It's like, I mean, it's kind of tough. I like Austin. You know, oh yeah, the San Diego Legion fans coming out. Yeah, human interest. Like San Diego's guys too. Nick Boyer, what he was able to do pace wise, he played cheeky a few times. I was getting mad. But the way he played, the pace he wanted to play with, the rhythm, they were set, they were good. Whereas, you know, starting a new scrum half, oh yeah. So that goes,
I tweeted about the kick coloration.
So let's talk. So kick coloration was not a problem. The problem was,
yeah, it was.
Let's go into Corbier. Well, so San Diego has a white kit that they could have used, and Austin also has a white alternate kit of you, but the entire time Corbier's like black, and I'm like, they're both black. One is orange, one is red.
He said orange. When he was talking about Austin, he said orange. By the way,
well, he started calling them black, and I'm just like, bro,
that's weird.
They're both wearing black. One has red, one has orange. Can we do that? But the producer says it was a problem, so apparently it was a problem. Yes, I think we want kits to really contrast, and there was just too much black on the pitch.
Wasn't there a passing error of I think it was was it an Austin player passing it to a San Diego player?
Yeah, it was wicked blatant too.
Yeah, it was Sunula.
Like, hey bro, pass it here. Pass it here, man.
Has anybody else done that on the? I can't tell you how many times I did that. I'd be like running behind like on an opponent and be like, "Yo, ball."
Yeah, it's like no, it's more like so when you're practicing with your own team and you're playing touch sevens, not like NRL touch, not proper touch, just regular touch, and it's like everyone's wearing like whatever they're wearing, and all of a sudden they're like Stro. AC, ball, AC, and you pass to the other guy. That's basically what happened. It was
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, poor Roland. I'm sure he was kicking himself.
I mean, especially like when you're running with the ball, you rely a lot on what you see out of your peripheral vision. So if all you see is kind of like a flash of, you know, like some sort of like dark coloration with the black like on there, offload.
I mean, you want to put the ball in the right place. The ball in the right place is going to be between like the belly button and the chest. So, that's where we get a problem, right? Because nipples up, both jerseys were black. Like,
it just. I mean, did they show up to the field, look at each other while warming up, be like, is this going to be an issue?
Yeah, it was.
So. It's like wearing the same dress out to the club, you know. Just it happens to all of us.
Yeah, you know, it was so. So yeah, good for San Diego. They have clinched the playoffs. Also, for all those that don't know, just so that we get it out before the news, tickets for the entirety of the MLR Championship Series are on sale, so you can buy your doubleheader tickets for Infinity Park now, and you can also buy your championship match tickets for Torero Stadium. So that's going to be really cool. But let's get to Scotland.
Eagles USA.
So 30-29, man. There was the way this game was going. It was kind of funny because Blair Kinghorn scores the first try, and he then converts it the first try, right? And it's just like, okay, this could get bad because for about 30 seconds it looked really tight, and then all of a sudden they just do what they do, and they go wide, and Kinghorn goes in, and then boots it through, which I guess was a surprise to some Scottish fans. Even though he kicks a lot, he hasn't kicked for the national team in a while, and for the most part of the night, his boot was good, except late.
When it mattered. When it
mattered the most. But it was just you had this feeling because I spoke with the coaching staff, and you talk to some of the guys and they pull you aside and they go, Aaron. It's like, because they all have like foreign accents. It's like, Aaron, what do you think? Or something like that. And it's like, it's like the best chance we have in a long time. And he's like, I think so. It's like, I think, and I'm talking to my friends that we were talking at the lunch table. It's like, I think we got a shot. I'm like, I think we got a shot too. I just think we need to play well, and we didn't play well. We did not. We played good.
I was gonna say we played okay in the second half, and I think that had a lot to do with Gary Gold whipping them to shape in the locker room during halftime. Well, but I think it definitely can't be denied though that second half, our ability to come back was based a lot more on Scotland making mistakes than it really and our ability to kind of capitalize on.
Let's talk about some of that, right? So we end the first half. AJ puts 2 through because we did what we needed to do. We won the kicking game for the most part in the first half. Yes, we're down 24 to 13 to end the half, but it was 21 to 13, and then we commit a last-second penalty and give Blair Kinghorn a chance to add to the damage. But for the most part, it's 21. It's 21 freaking 6, man, and it's looking bad. And then we push the ball down deep, and Joe Tofate surges across the try line. Just boom. Okay, we're back in this. And the team's just like, all right, we got this. AJ puts it up, and it's 13 points, 21, and we're basically ready to head to the sheds, and we sort of screw up, turn the ball over, commit a penalty, and it's 24-13, but it was eerie, like especially in the press room, listening to the Scots and talking to them, and come out in the second half. What happens? Joe just crushes it, just pushes it right through. And you talk about people whose games were just on, and I was talking to some people after the game. We're talking about different positions and when you should manage their time and how they come off. It's like, some players you got to look at it like with the baseball mentality, like fly half, scrum half. Those guys, if the pitcher's on the mound and he's in the 9th inning and he's throwing a perfect game, do you take him out?
Hell no.
I don't know if you're Alf Daniels with Don Potty, then yeah you do. Hold on, can we just rewind actually a bit to that game? Like that Don Potty got substituted out in the last 10 minutes of the game, despite the fact that I didn't see any injury. I didn't.
That is such a good point, though.
That was so bad. Yeah.
So bad. That game of his freaking career.
Exactly, and you took him out. I agree.
But I mean, I would say when it comes to subs, maybe he's making all the calls, but Utah has made some funky calls when it comes to subs. Like there have been some funky calls. Like I would put guys based on how the game was being played. I would push guys in earlier, or I would push guys in later because some guys were having good games, and that's one of those points where you just leave the guy on, you just let it go, which is what happened with AJ. Like, in the second half, Gary said that he was confident with certain players having good field vision and seeing gaps and letting them shoot through and do crazy things. We wanted to play attacking rugby. We wanted to push the ball deep so that it was in their half, inside their 22 often. And AJ just, the last score of the game is set up by him, and he boots it. He sees the gap. He looks to the left. There's going to be some support runners. He wasn't necessarily sure, but he looks to the left, and then he puts it down. And Matt Fagerson loses it. It's like he touches the ball, it goes backwards, and AJ had turned the burners on.
That's right.
He scooped it up, looked to his right. He was going to get tackled, and then looks left. Hanko's right there. Some words were probably exchanged, something like, "I'm right here." And then he offloads over his shoulder to Hanko. Hanko goes in. We're upset.
Yeah.
That was a horrible accent.
I just want to send a shout out to Hanko who actually responded to my drunk text message after the game. I really appreciate it. But yeah.
Cool.
Man, you have how do you have so many player? Man, how do you have so many player numbers? That's cute of you. But
not even numbers, just Facebook.
Oh,
like and drunk confidence in terms of messaging people.
Yeah. So
this one is a really fun drunk. Let me tell you, this Liam right here, really fun drunk.
Dude, I lost my cell phone that weekend in New York, man.
I have a ton of emails because we're like official, but I think I have more Canadian players on my Facebook friends list.
Wow,
that's pretty bad because that says like how like things work.
What do Canadian players talk? What do Canadian people talk about on Facebook? Because in America, it's just political rant and like blah 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 blah. Like my moose has bigger antlers.
Well, most of them, for the most part, are more like Zach Pangilinan. So like fishing, hunting, and grilling. Like that so far has been the case with my Canadian, like the Canadian athletes that I
it sounds a lot like Vermont.
Yeah. So shout out to Zach Pangilinan, friend of the show and friend of mine, apparently.
Yeah,
good.
I was able to interview Zach, really nice guy. I also got to talk to him a little bit down in Houston. Like, again, like even when you meet him, I met him the week he got suspended, so he wasn't playing that week. So he had every right to be in a bad mood, but he was cool as a cucumber.
So we talk about, Scotland's pass errors when they had the ball. I talked to, there's two things that go into this. So Gregor Townsend makes mention of, the weather, and, anyone who talks to Gary Gold says that the weather is not a factor. He says you better not look for it to be a factor. Don't create excuses, and you don't create excuses for it to negatively affect you, and you don't say it's an advantage. Which he said, he wouldn't say he chewed me out, but he was emphatic when we were in the pre-tour press conference about that, and he was just no, the weather conditions do not. We have to play in it too, right? But Gregor Townsend was talking about how during the week, they enjoyed coming to the States, but it was so humid that during training, the ball was just slippery. It was the moment they took the balls out of the bus, they were just wet, and they were the amount of drying off of balls they had to do was insane, and it just made it really tough when they were practicing, and the same conditions applied in the game. And I think, I spoke to Aj today on an interview with Ryan Ginty, and he was just like, the ball is slippery for us too. We just kind of got lucky. And, part of that was playing with so, and this comes into playing the attacking style of rugby that we're playing, putting the ball in the air, putting it deep into their field, and then, being sure-handed with who we got. We punished them. With our guys, and
we were able to play ping pong like Forrest Gump with the kicking game. Let's just put it that.
Our friend, the rugby evangelist, coined the term #Brute Squad, and we put out this big, fast team, and we pushed the ball to we cycled the ball to our powerful runners so that it would just drive up the tackle rate in the second half, which probably I would say caused a lot of the errors of the Scottish because of the same people, talking to Blaine Scully after the match. It's like, so we have these talented ball carriers that are powerful runners, but guess what? They also hit like freaking, sledgehammers. So we just played the kind of defense that put them in position to lay the hits. So you had, they ran Samu Manoa, Joe Tofate, Paul Lasike up the gut to drive that tackle count up and just fatigue Scotland. But then they use those same guys like Bryce Campbell, Marcel Brocky, Paul Lasike, Paul Mullen. Johnny Locks is so physical. Quill, shout out to John Quill. He came off injured. So I think he's going to be Waterboy this week. Kind of sucks. But because he's been having a great tour. But we just did the things that I think were already in the game plan, and we executed them good enough. But we almost lost this one.
I mean, yeah, we definitely almost lost this one because it was against a Tier 1 nation, and it was against the Scots, who are just naturally a very brutish people. Nothing against the Scots. It's definitely a compliment when it comes to the rugby field. But kind of like what we were saying, we both had to play in the same conditions, and when it comes down to it, discipline is a good 25-30% of playing rugby. We didn't make the mistakes that Scotland did in the second half. We were able to play a more mistake-free second half, and that's all the difference is. It's kind of like when a Seahawks fan's like, oh, if we had just given it to Marshawn, we would have won that Super Bowl. It's just like, but you didn't give it to Marshawn because you had fucking Pete Carroll calling your plays. I
wrote about this sort of in my match recap. Said hi to Nate, but he made a bad tactical decision. He pulled up the ball. There was about 90 seconds left. Last 2 minutes of the game. Scotland commits a penalty, turnover ball. We have the ball within, we're pretty much just running rucks at our own 5 meter line. But that's all we have to do is just keep picking and going across the pitch and just burn clock. But Nate pulled up, box kick, and turned the ball over. And, they win. Scotland wins the line out, and they got dumb. They got real dumb. They spent they spent the next minute and 20 after they got that line out trying to push it through the middle. And the way our forwards were tackling, man, there was no way they got through. And then all of a sudden their scrum half goes, passes the ball out wide. We had a defensive lapse. Odge talked about that. AJ, for all those that don't know, but we call it Odge because that's actually what it is. McGinty was talking about it. I asked him what he needed to do because he basically flew to get there and tackle the guy in the try zone, and he was more like showing that he was kind of mad. And he's like, "Why'd you talk to me about that?" I was like, No. What you did was important because yes, there was a defensive lapse in the system because they just pushed that ball really, really fast out wide, and they just do what they do, score wide tries. Yet he was in the right position to stop the dude from, running into the center under the post and set up that kick for Kinghorn to be just the toughest thing he's ever kicked in his life.
Mm-hmm. And keep in mind, guys, that AJ or Ash, I guess I have to call him now. Ash from Pokemon, I guess. He definitely or Hash. Or Ash. Ash. I'm trying to
Je.
Thank you for improving my Irish. or as they say in Irish,
apparently his little brother couldn't pronounce Alan.
Oh,
so he called him Aj. Yeah.
Okay. Very well. Okay, that's another word into my Irish vocabulary besides thank you and que me la falta. That welcomes. Anyways, so he was in position to tackle Doogie 5 into the touchstone and end the game right there. But what happened was that as soon as the pass was made to 5, he started running as McGinty was trying to get into him. The thing is, he was in a good position to grab him, I guess, by the waist and push him out. But unfortunately, that didn't happen, and he got the chance to score. But McGinty, I'm sure 9 out of 10 probably would have made that tackle out of into the in-goal line and in the game rather. But it's what it is. I mean, it happens.
He was saying that was his intent, and I was like, well, yeah, it didn't happen, but. Mm-hmm. Because of where you made him score the try,
that made all the difference.
Yeah. Of course. I'm not. Of course, I mean it happens. I mean it happens to the best of us. I'm sure.
I mean, I definitely couldn't have been the only one thinking that. Like watching that game, it's like please, because like I knew he was going to score the try. Like their momentum was just going forward and forward. I was just like, please get him in the corner, please, and it freaking happened.
And sure enough, that's right.
I mean, but like, and so you got that, and then. Landry in the middle of that had come out from had passed his HIA, and Quill's injured, and right after that, right, and it's just like, oh no, right before that, Quill gets injured, and I'm pretty sure they call the water break, and Wayne Barnes is on the sideline with the manager, and they're trying to figure out how the heck do they get 15 on the pitch, right? So, well. Henko had gone in for Landry's HIA, so Henko had to come off. We knew that. And I don't know why that took forever, but they got the laws done. Henko comes off, and Will McGee goes on and slots into the back line on the left side, which, you know, he landed some good tackles when those rucks were coming in on the right side of the pitch towards the try zone. So it was very important that he went on. But it was just insane to watch that. But how about booing? Not booing. It wasn't booing.
Oh, during the final kick,
the Twitter sphere was going nuts. But I was there. It wasn't booing. It was like there were people like hollering, making all kinds of noise. But most of that was USA chants.
How could you not be like hollering? How could you like? It's exciting. You're at a freaking sports match. This is why I don't think we need to take the whole European ideals of watching sports that seriously.
I'm just like, so people are like, well, respect, and I'm like, well,
fuck you.
Well, not that, not that, man. I say
I'm from Boston. No, that is here.
But here's the thing. So respect comes in different ways. Making it as tough verbally, you know, not like insults, but just creating so much noise that it makes it difficult is a form of respect for a kicker. And if you don't think it is, then, I mean, welcome to America. Fans like to be a part of their team. So in this case, the 16th Eagle, you know, the 16th man. That's what we got. We got going on in this country, and I'm all about it.
The ninth Talon.
Yeah. So
the knife forward.
But yeah, that was a special moment of the game, as it just got really loud, and Kinghorn misses the kick, and then 20 seconds later, because it's in extra time, Wayne Barnes blows the whistle. That was awesome. And, you know, we win our first game against a tier 1 opponent. You know, I guess not really a tier 1 country since they went to the tier system, but we beat France way back in the day. two Olympics in a row. But
back in like 1914.
1924, 1924,
1920.
You made it sound like it was in the 90s. I mean, like,
no,
1924.
Both times we upset the French. Like, we were supposed to get crushed. So, road to Romania, the United States lost the aggregate series, tied the game 40-22. Like I said early in the show, we went wire to wire. Missed out. First game. No Kieran Farmer.
Yep.
Don't know what's up with that.
Awesome. You want me to check on that, Aaron, since I was in attendance?
I mean, you can talk about that. It's just he played the warm-up game, so all the fly halves were in residence for the camp early on. So he played the warm-up game against Austin, and if you watch the tape, he's the one crushing it in the second half. I mean, he wasn't, and then he just didn't make the roster. I don't know what it takes there. The Walsh kid is pretty good, but he's like 18, and he's going to be a freshman at Cal. So it wasn't really a factor on Saturday, but it was a factor on Tuesday. No, fuck you. No opinion for Tuesday's match.
Fuck you.
Victor, do you have an opinion on fly halving for Tuesday's match? No. Did we lose him?
Did we lose Victor? Victor, no.
Okay, yeah. It looks like we lost Victor. So if you look at the film, the AER match is the Austin Elite U23s versus JAAs is up on the AER Facebook, and then the Canada matches are on the there's two Victors. So let's just cut that short. Basically, I think Kieran Farmer needed to be on this roster, and things might have been different because guess what? It's the first time that Walsh and Ruben DeHaas had played together, and Kieran Farmer and Ruben DeHaas have played together like 10 times in the past. So they know each other. They know each other's tendencies, and things would have been different. But let's get through on some, accolades. Major League Rugby Player of the Week is JP Eloff from NOLA Gold. He crushed it. Play of the Week for EOD. Let's say Don Patty twice because he just took a knife and sliced and diced. So what was your guys' game of the week? I thought Seattle Glendale, but
No, I definitely had to go with NOLA Utah. For many of the reasons that we discussed. It was a very up and down game, but especially if you weren't necessarily a fan of either team, like even the lows of the game were pretty exciting. Just because it kind of added to the suspense. I thought NOLA had a much more balanced attack in terms of more than we were giving them credit for earlier in the show.
Well, I mean, not gonna really dive into it. They do have an attack. I know exactly what their system is. It's a multiple based out of 1-3-3-1 and 2-4-2, depending on what they see. They play both. So it was just the way that game sort of went for me. But week 9 predictions, which was Saturday, Sunday. What did you guys have? And I know Liam wasn't here, and I forgot to write Brian's down. I think he was wrong on all of them. So I think so. I had Utah -7. So I got my ass kicked there. And then that was NOLA at Utah 46-43. Victor and Corey. Corey, are you there? Okay, Victor,
hey.
What did you have?
I had NOLA by 10. So I got the right team, but I was way off in the score.
And I had Utah by 14, so I was hoping for some home field magic there. So
the next match, Seattle at Glendale Raptors. I had Glendale Raptors -2. That was way off. That should have been maybe -20. Victor.
In hindsight, I got Seattle by 7. I wanted to go against the grain, thinking, you know what? Let's see, probably Seattle was going to finally give the Raptors their first loss, and at home on top of that. But nah, I was wrong. I should have gone with I should have gone with Glendale anyway.
You guys can just assume that all of my predictions would have been correct.
They weren't in
No
Super
doubt.
Brew, so
Yeah.
Ooh,
But
Oh.
then you selected another prediction of a tie, Corey.
Yeah, no, this was that controversial call, and it did not pay off. So
at all.
So and then I had Austin -5.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
Ugh.
That was a mistake. Well, I had San Diego by 10, so
That fits. And
Yep.
then Corey.
and I had San Diego by 7. So
yeah.
Moving on to Week 10 predictions. People are going to say, I want this, I want that, but I'm going pretty stiff. Glendale -12. They are playing at the Legion, but they're just going.
I actually had the same thing. I have Glendale -12 as well. I just
You have
think
-9.
-9. What? Oh no, other way around. For the next game, I have -12. Yeah, sorry, but I have Glendale -9. I think it's going to come down to the kicking game, but like I've been saying, I think Glendale's just been a lot more consistent team all this season. They're going to go undefeated, unfortunately.
I agree, and I'm going to go also Glendale, but let's do it by 14 just in case.
well, and they just beat Seattle by 22. So I'm going to go ahead and say Glendale by 20 on the road.
Damn, Raptors unstoppable.
Yeah.
So for the next game, Houston at the Utah Warriors. I spoke with didn't get a chance to speak with Fitzy, but I did speak with a lot of the guys. Kyle Sumpsian, Matt Truville, Sam Windsor. These are my people. I love those guys. We talked about a lot of things on Friday, and there's just no way I see them, just skidding. There's no way. They are too good. I know the record doesn't show much, but they are. Their chemistry is there. They're a good team, and they're going to show it. And I'm going close since they're away, but I've got Houston -1.
I went with Houston -12, so this is the actual -12 that I had chosen from the other prediction. But for the reasons that you said, Aaron, I've talked to a lot of these guys in person, particularly when I was down in Houston just a couple of weeks ago. They're a really good team. Unfortunately, what's been hindering them is their lack of success in the big play. I feel like they tend to play very safe. They play this Northern Hemisphere style of game where it's just kind of the pick and drive with the forwards, and it hasn't really resulted in a lot of I guess you can call it game-breaking plays. But I think this, like you said, I can't see them finishing out the season on anything other but a good note. So yeah, Houston -12. I believe in them.
I don't. I'm going to go with Utah -10.
And I'm
I just ripped my freaking my headphones out.
You funny, Liam.
And I'm a cynic, kind of like Victor here. I'm going to say Utah by 7. So,
dude, man, if I tell you this, if Houston wins and Liam comes back, I'm not going to hear that. I'm not going to eat the hand of it. It's got like, Victor, see, I told you.
This will be my happy dance. And
oh yeah, I remember that for next week. I remember that.
So,
yeah.
Corey, what did you have here?
Well, it looks like you were going to talk about Eagles versus.
But what did you have? I don't think I heard you.
Oh, I said I have Utah by 7. I was agreeing with Victor.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
So the final-ish sort of thing. We're going to have a long show because we owe you. But Eagles versus Canada preview. So this is what I got, guys. Canada is banged up. Their captain is out. DTH Van der Merwe is injured. So one of the big things Blaine Scully talked about versus Scotland was just getting double tackles, punishing the ball carriers. If you can do that on, some of their talented runners right now, it's going to be like Staller and Hassler are going to carry the ball most of the time, and they're wing and fullback. You gotta punish them. Canada's just not good right now. However, we can't do what we've done in the past, which is play down. See Brazil 3 years ago. Dominate up front. I think we're just set up. I think Mullen is an answer at tight head for a long time. The issue that we will face is getting the guys behind him to push him to get better. And because for the most part, we don't have a lot of prop depth. Eric Fry, it's good to see his form back in camp. I think he might get some rest, and he will be on the bench for T. Lamosatelli, who is now ready to go in match fitness. And we've got Mighty Joe. Mighty Joe will I love you, Raymondo. I love you, my people. But I think he's gonna eat. I think he's gonna eat both Howie and Ray Barkwell's lunch up front. And then we've got the Butcher to back him up. It's gonna be that we're gonna win. We need to win the battle up front, which shouldn't be necessarily that difficult. And like I said, Quill is injured for right now. But he did make the trip to Halifax. But unless he gets cleared, I'm pretty sure that Vili Tolutau will be the second guy that gets capped this tour. And I think he's earned it, right? So he will probably play a lot of 6, and Landry will get the start at 6. Possession game. Just keep the ball inside their 22. It's going to be wet again. It's going to rain. It's going to be nasty. Drive the tackle counts high with your talented ball runners, and should be a good time. What I want to see. So what do you guys want to see in this game? As far as score wise?
I want to see another USA Russia. Or probably keep it then to 0. That will be even better. 64-0, just for the hell of it. But you know what, Aaron, I do agree. The Eagles should not play down versus Canada just because Canada is going through a rough time. If you don't believe me, see what happened in USA Scotland. That Scotland team that played USA, obviously I don't want to take it away from the Eagles because they played great. I mean, they had their spots here and there. But that was a second to third string team. They had a couple of their starters. I mean, their main one obviously was Stuart Hogg, but most of those guys don't play consistently in the team. Actually, I take that back. You also had Byron McGuigan, who's sort of becoming a starter for Gregor Townsend. But then when it came to the scrum halves, you had Sammy Dangle Klein, and he doesn't even play that often with the main team anymore. They usually just have him just in case someone gets injured to pull him out of Edinburgh and put him there. But that's whatever. But the point, Canada definitely want them to score as many points as possible. I think they're definitely going to win this game. I'd be surprised if they don't. But hopefully they're going to keep the team as similar as possible.
I totally disagree. I mean, I'm calling USA 25, Canada 10. I think the USA they're going to take advantage of Canada's injury. I think our forwards are a lot more suited to play out a full 80-minute game and play it well. All the love in the world to Ray Barkwell, but he's just one guy. Like Aaron was saying, I think the addition of Paul Mullen is going to be really, beneficial to this squad. I think it's going to be a pick and drive kind of game in the rain. We're going to keep the ball away from Canada, and we're going to cruise to this victory.
I want to put on a lot of points. I really do, because we kind of need them if we want to move up. But I think let's go 35-7. I think they're going to score one, and it's going to be like normal. They're going to score one early, and then that's going to be it. That's what I think is going to go. And then we're just going to chip away the rest of the game. But like you said, it's going to be rainy. The grass is going to be a little bit long. The thing that it's not going to be is humid, and it's at sea level. And we've just played 2 games in the shit when it comes to conditions. I think we're going to play well, but I think we're going to need to play a little bit more conservative because it's going to be a lot more wet in Halifax than it was in Houston, but I don't think it's going to be that tight of a match. So, Corey, what do you got?
Yeah, well, the only thing I was going to say about the USA-Canada is just a reminder that this is a rivalry match for the USA, and especially if they've got some of the younger guys on there that maybe haven't done this as many times.
Who's got a dog? Who's got a dog in their background?
That's probably me. I've got 2 of them. I think USA is going to go up there, and I think they're going to be ready to play, and I think they're going to squash them. I think they're going to be crying all the way home, drinking maple syrup, and just being sad Canadians.
A single tear runs down his face.
Yep. All right, so moving on from that, I think if you guys are good with it, we'll do a tweet of the week. What do you say?
Right. Yep.
Why not?
So, of course, we couldn't do tweet of the week this week without having something about the USA-Scotland match. So we're taking a quick departure from MLR this week to celebrate a great win. So this one comes from Jordan Burroughs, who's a world-renowned wrestler from the University of Nebraska, and he's an Olympian now and has wrestled all over the place. And he said that was, speaking after the match, he said that was the first USA Rugby I've ever watched fully, and I still don't understand the rules, but I absolutely love it. Congratulations on the huge victory over Scotland. So this is a guy, once again, proving why these games need to be out and approachable for an American audience. Because here's somebody who is an elite athlete in his own right, who, doesn't come from a world where he knows a lot about rugby, but he is watching it and he knows just instinctually that this is elite play and exciting performance. So I don't know. I was really happy with that tweet and kind of excited for the future when I read stuff like that and think about what's possible with more eyes on USA.
And
I feel like that kind of
we can't have a paywall.
That's exactly right.
I was gonna say though, like that tweet kind of encapsulates a lot of people's first times ever watching rugby. It's like, I have no idea what I just saw, but god damn do I love it.
Yeah.
All right, so trying to wrap it up so I don't get smacked because it's about to be dinner time. So signing.
You live with your mom, like.
No, I live with a wonderful lady. Hey, Corey.
Hi, the wonderful lady.
We can keep those. Normally I'm the chef, but since I'm injured, she's cooking. We can keep those questions. So transactions, Austin signs Lou Stanfield. I'm not sure if we talked about Michael Romero from France. He was a U18, definitely scouted by Alan Yarde. Lou Stanfield, I was wondering about what kind of shape Lou would be in because he hasn't played in a couple years. I know he's been a workout warrior and he just crushes it, but he was fit. So interesting that he signed for the rest of the season, which was only 1 game, or is it 2 games? Do they play next week? I forget. No, they don't, right? So it would be for the playoffs.
Yeah, no, they're done.
Yeah, so that was weird. And then views, news, and abuse. I didn't catch a lot for the show this week. But the Scottish media delayed response for, the game. Like, so the guys who were at the game in the press room were like, well done. You should have won by more. But the delayed response from, like, the guy from the media that weren't at the game, that just watched the game, which came out today. Oh my Jesus. Like, guys, you're like burning your team rather than just giving us some credit for something that's been like a long time in the making. I know that you guys were blooding new players and stuff like that, but it's like the Titanic is going down right now in Scotland. But
good.
All right. Questions from Bob, Corey.
All right. Yep. Okay, so yeah, we've got some good ones this week. first up, this one came from a comment thread on Reddit. And once again, as always, you can check us out on reddit.com/r/mlrugby. So Doom on U77 wants to know, does anybody know if there will be another season of MLR, or is that something that won't be announced until after the championship?
Yes, it's going to be from January to May with playoffs in June, and then players get released for World Cup warm-ups in July. That was in an interview 2 weeks ago with a local TV station in Salt Lake City.
And
Dean House.
And I also believe that in order just to enter the league, you had to prove that you had the money to pay at least 4 years worth of 5 years worth of salary. And so this is
the salary cap is progressive.
Yeah.
Because the amount of matches goes up next year.
Yeah, and we cannot express this enough. This is not PRO where the money is just going to run out. Checks are going to checks are going to be stopped being written. There's too much oversight, which is something that USA Rugby could take a lesson from. But other than that, though, no, I think MLR is in a really good place. Or I am. I'm sorry.
Something's caught in your throat there.
Rugby chill.
Yeah, it sort of tastes like betrayal.
Yeah. Torque. Whoa, that was weird.
All right. So, Say Knee wants to know, is MLR going to have a draft similar to the NFL?
Yes. I mean, yes, but it's going to be a while, and it sounds like the concept would be more like, I guess, the MLR draft, which allows...
The MLR draft will be like the MLR draft?
The MLS draft, rather, that says, so players that are developed by an academy that go off to a college, that decide to enter the draft rather than return to the team they were developed by, they can get drafted, and then the team that developed them through the academy will get compensated with picks or something. It's complicated.
Well, I mean, I think that's fair, though, because if in the end if getting drafted means you get paid more money, I think players should have that opportunity. I mean, I just don't like this whole idea, because you saw this with the early days of professional baseball in the United States, where players were more or less locked into a single team, and I don't want that to happen in rugby.
Right now, I mean, I know it was early days, when the Legion launched their big press conference back in the end of February, early March, and Dean House answered a question, and he said there was no free agency. And I think that has everything to do with that. There's no minimum salary right now. Minimum salary is a match fee. So players don't have mobility, period. They don't. Unless they can, the part-time guys, the players that have mobility within the league are the full-time guys. And then the part-time guys need to make sure I hope part-time is over by year 4 or 5, by the way. But the part-time guys are kind of stuck based on what the trades they work in, where they work. So I don't want it to be like baseball for where 70 years the players can't go anywhere and the contracts are strictly for 70 years the contracts were shit, right?
Yeah.
But I don't want it to be like that.
And also, you have to remember, rugby is a little bit culty, and so if you have somebody enter an academy at age 14, and that academy just kind of is just it's all about this team, but what if a player decides that another team with another culture is more beneficial to me, and I think the draft can give that to me.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think if a player stays, the idea as I've discussed it on the interview I had with Matt Hawkins is if the player stays with that academy and goes to a junior college and plays in the senior academy and stuff, well, though they won't enter the draft because their rights are held. But at that point, we should have free agency.
At that point, it's like the CFL.
Yeah. Yeah. So we should, but at that point, we should be able to move around, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully. So that's my answer about the draft. I think it's going to happen. What it looks like, I have no freaking clue.
So to sum up, yes, draft, not like the NFL.
Yeah.
All right, last question of the night, and this is one I've been looking forward to. Russ the Man 16. How much of the Eagles' success this June can be attributed to the MLR? And I think this is a big question. This is $1 million question right now.
I mean, look at people look at Paul Asike, like for instance, I think he was kind of an afterthought after leaving the NFL, and I think the MLR kind of put his name at the forefront of people who could potentially be a big help to the Eagles. Same thing, like Hunko's been in the circuit, for a while now, but I think these last couple of months working with the Austin Elite have kind of pushed him over the edge of elite status. And the Raptors have always been the Raptors, but it's the fact that they have that professional environment to work in and to continue to develop in, I think, is one of the reasons why they've been able to play at that level. People like Sean Davies and Bryce Campbell and whatnot.
I mean, when it comes to this, I think our players are at match fitness when they got to camp, whereas previous to this, because 2/3 of our player pool had been full amateur forever. They weren't fit when they got to camp. So the only way to get fit was if we had a long camp, but usually we would only have 3 or 4 days before our first test because we didn't have any money, right? But we had a mini camp. Players that didn't come from Europe got released to their MLR teams, played a game for Russia, and then we formed for full camp, made cuts, sent players back to their, sent 3 players back to their MLR teams. And, we had guys, we talked about Paul Asike. So when Paul Asike burst onto into the Eagles side during the ARC when he got his first cap, he wasn't at 80 minutes match fit. And, he's played 65 minutes each one of these matches. Like, he is fit and ready to go. We can, if we go by players selected on MLR form, Paul Mullen was selected on preseason MLR form, and then Vili Tolutau was selected purely on MLR form. He had been in the high performance system as a junior All-American and an All-American, so he was on the radar, but he was selected based on how he played at the 7. So match fitness, high quality fixtures so that the players are playing good games, but the majority of these players were already in the squad. So, but I think someone else talked about it on Reddit, is like the level of competition is just so much drastically higher for those 26 spots.
Yeah.
How about visibility and just having clips that you can show people? I would imagine being on TV week in and week out helps too for just increasing your status and your visibility.
Oh, I mean, well, that's so. You want to know why some players weren't selected that were playing rugby?
Why?
High quality match film that can be analyzed.
I mean, that definitely works out for Gary Gold, especially he can decide what players he doesn't want to be on the team because of film study, but especially when you have the entire team together, you can look at matches from the MLR and this is what's wrong with your game, this is what I want you to improve upon, as opposed to years past when people were just playing in, D1 elite men's clubs and fucking
it gets it really simple, right? Because then you only have 7 coaches to talk to, right? That are for players that are in the player pool. We have 7 coaches to talk to. You only have 7 organizations right now to feed back that are playing at the highest level domestically. Next year it's going to go up, but still, it's better than how we used to be, which is probably have 30 guys from 30 different clubs, and so. But I think it had a lot to do with it. So the impact on the game against Russia and Scotland, maybe not necessarily the impact on selections.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for talking us through that. I think we're ready for final thoughts. Anybody have anything for us on the way out here?
Yeah, tell your friends about the MLR. Tell them about the playoffs and the championship coming up, because those numbers are going to matter, especially heading into year 2.
Yeah, throw a party. Buy a pizza. Bring some beer.
Tell your local bar that has CBS Sports to put it on. Seriously, I've done this at a couple places now, and people enjoy watching it. All right.
Anyone else?
All right, that's it for me. Victor, take us home, man.
Sounds like a plan. First of all, guys, real quick, because I didn't get a chance to do so, thank you very much to both Ruben De Haas and David Ayinu for taking a little bit of time to talk to me after the first USA-Canada under-20s match. Had a lot of fun talking with them. Ruben was mad, Adam Lemon, and David was a little bit more positive in comparison. And yeah, David was really cool. Really, really enjoyed talking to him. Also Ruben, but David also. He was a highlight. He was a cool guy. So yeah, so thank you to both of them. Okay, guys. So first of all, thank you very much for joining us on another episode of the Earful of Dirt Major League Rugby Podcast, episode 41. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Earful of Dirt Podcast if you haven't done so already. Of course, if you're watching this, most likely you have. But if you're listening to the audio version, make sure to do so. Speaking of the audio version, guys, make sure to subscribe to us through iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Player FM, leave us a review like the person that did just now. And by the way, thank you very much for that review. Another thing as well, make sure to follow us on our on our social media accounts on Instagram, Google, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. All of them at Earful of Dirt. And by the way, guys, speaking of the review that we just got right now, to Dylan Farashi, who just sent it to us. Thank you. And also, he's following us on Instagram. We're also following him on Instagram as well. So thank you, Dylan. We do appreciate that. And finally, guys, make sure to call us and drop us a voicemail at our phone number, which is 1-720-600-2679. And of course, going back with the live stream that we have here on YouTube, that's at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific time. So with all that said, guys, once again, my name is Victor. That was Aaron, Corey, and Liam Poach. Hopefully we'll have it next week again so he can do his dance. And if not, we'll have Josh. If not, Dan, whenever he comes back. So we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.